I never imagined my own daughter would look at me with eyes so cold, so distant, that I'd feel like a stranger in the home I built for her. Yet that's exactly what happened the afternoon she told me I wasn't welcome at her wedding. It was a Wednesday, an ordinary, unremarkable day. I had just finished brewing tea when she walked in, her expression stiff, her lips pressed together like she was preparing herself for battle. She didn't sit, didn't smile, didn't ask how I was. She simply stood there, one hand clutching her phone, the engagement ring on her finger glinting under the kitchen light. "Mom," she began, her voice unusually steady, "I need to talk to you about the wedding." A warmth bloomed in my chest. Finally, I thought. We hadn't discussed the details in weeks. She kept dodging the topic, assuming I'd stress her out. I imagined she was finally ready to include me in the planning, the dress fitting, the guest list, the mother-daughter moments I had waited years for. But instead, I heard the one sentence no mother ever expects. "You're not invited." Just like that. No build-up, no sugarcoating. She said it as if she was informing me of a schedule change, not ripping open a wound I didn't know existed. I blinked, the words floating in the air between us. Impossible to grasp. What do you mean?" She sighed as if I was the one exhausting her. "It's just better this way. The wedding is small, intimate, and honestly, you make things complicated." Complicated. The word hit harder than the uninviting itself. This was the same daughter I raised alone after her father walked away, the same girl whose school lunches I packed, whose tears I wiped, whose dreams I cheered on. I had been her anchor, her supporter, her everything. "And who told you I'm complicated?" I asked quietly. She hesitated, and that was all I needed. Her fiancé, his mother, his family. I knew they didn't like me. Too opinionated, too old-fashioned, too involved. They liked their world neat, curated, polished, and I didn't fit their picture. "I just want peace on my wedding day," she added coldly. I swallowed the pain burning my throat. "And you think I'd ruin it?" Her silence was the loudest answer I'd ever heard. She slipped her phone into her purse and stood taller as if she'd accomplished something brave. "So, I hope you understand. It's nothing personal." Nothing personal. A mother being excluded from her only daughter's wedding wasn't personal? But I didn't cry. Not in front of her, not when she walked away, not when the door closed behind her with a finality that shook the house. No, I didn't cry. I planned. Because if my daughter didn't want me at her wedding, then she had no idea what I was truly capable of when pushed aside. For 2 days after my daughter uninvited me from her wedding, the house felt unbearably quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the heavy, suffocating kind that presses on your chest and reminds you of everything you've lost. I moved from room to room, touching the furniture, the framed photos, the memories. All the things she seemed so willing to discard. But on the 3rd day, something in me shifted. I woke up before sunrise, sat at the edge of my bed, and let the cool morning air sharpen my mind. If my daughter thought she could erase me from one of the biggest days of her life without consequence, she was wrong. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. I wanted to know why she was suddenly ashamed of me, why she'd chosen her fiancé's family over her own mother. And if she wouldn't tell me, I'd find out myself. I began with small details I remembered from her scattered conversations. The wedding venue name, the date, the guest list she accidentally showed me once, the time of the ceremony. Piecing it together felt like assembling a puzzle no one wanted me to solve. Then I remembered something even more powerful. Her fiancé's mother was a notorious bragger on Facebook. She posted every detail of her life, including her son's engagement and the upcoming dream wedding. A few clicks later, I found everything I needed. The location, the exact schedule, the bridal party lineup, even the seating arrangement. And there, in bold calligraphy, was the part that twisted the knife deeper. Parents of the bride, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Her father, A man who abandoned her. A man who never paid a dime of support. A man who once forgot her birthday 3 years in a row. He was walking her down the aisle. I was erased. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, but instead of crying, I felt a spark, an ember at first, then a flame. My daughter might have forgotten who stood by her for 26 years, but I hadn't forgotten myself. I wasn't going to scream, beg, or cause a scene. I was going to walk into that wedding with dignity, strength, and certainty, reminding everyone exactly who I was. The next day, I bought a dress. Not a flashy one, not a revenge outfit, but a beautiful, elegant gown that reflected the mother I had always been. Strong, patient, loving, and impossible to replace. Then I made a reservation at the hotel where the bridal party was staying. I used my maiden name just in case someone tried to block me. And as I confirmed my booking, an unexpected thought crossed my mind. They might have uninvited me, but they couldn't stop me from attending a public ceremony. And they definitely couldn't stop what was coming next. Because the moment I'd walk down that aisle, even from the back, the truth would reveal itself. And my daughter, she wouldn't just freeze. She'd remember exactly who raised her. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more emotional and dramatic stories. The morning of the wedding arrived with a strange electric calm, like the world itself was holding its breath. I woke early, long before the sun stretched its light across the hotel curtains. For a moment, I just sat there, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, steadying my nerves. This wasn't a day for anger or tears. This was a day for truth. I dressed slowly, savoring each step. I slipped into the soft champagne-colored gown I'd chosen, a color that didn't scream for attention, but couldn't be ignored either. The fabric hugged me in all the right places, and for the first time in days, I saw myself in the mirror. Not the hurt mother, not the abandoned parent, but the woman who survived every hardship life had thrown at her. I pinned my hair up neatly, added a pair of pearl earrings my own mother once gave me, and took one final look. I looked like I belonged at a wedding. Her wedding. As I walked through the hotel lobby, I noticed whiskers. 2 bridesmaids brushed past me, giggling, until they saw my face. Their smiles dropped. One nudged the other, whispering something that carried a familiar sting. That's her. Her. As if I didn't have a name, as if I was a problem, not a parent. I didn't say anything. I simply gave them a polite nod and continued walking. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them be uncomfortable. Outside, a shuttle bus waited to take guests to the ceremony venue, a charming countryside chapel surrounded by tall oak trees and a long white stone pathway. The very place I should have been helping my daughter choose. When I stepped onto the bus, a hush fell over everyone. Some guests glanced away, others stared openly, a few looked sympathetic, but most seemed curious, like they were waiting to see whether I'd cause a scene. I didn't give them the satisfaction. I sat quietly near the front, hands folded in my lap, heart steady. Their reactions didn't matter. The only face I wanted to see was my daughter's. As the bus rolled down the winding road, I caught glimpses of the chapel. It was decorated beautifully. Flowers spilling along the entrance, chairs arranged perfectly, sunlight streaming through tall windows. My chest tightened. She must have looked so beautiful preparing for this day. I should have been helping her button her dress, fixing her veil, calming her nerves. Instead, I was arriving like an outsider. The bus stopped, and guests exited in nervous little groups. I stepped out last, taking in the scene. Everything was perfect. Almost painfully so. Then I saw him, my daughter's father, standing near the entrance in a sharp suit, laughing with the groom. He hadn't changed. Still charming, still selfish, still pretending he'd been present all along. My stomach twisted, but I kept walking. I would not let him derail me. As I approached the chapel doors, an usher stepped in front of me, his expression tense. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I was told you're not allowed inside." I smiled, calm, controlled, unshaken. "Then you better go find the person who gave that order, because I'm not moving." He hesitated, clearly unsure. And in that moment, the doors behind him opened. And there she was, my daughter, in her wedding gown, face to face with the mother she tried to erase. Her expression didn't just freeze, it shattered. For a moment, neither of us moved. My daughter stood framed in the doorway, sunlight spilling behind her like a halo, her wedding gown cascading around her in soft ivory folds. She looked beautiful, achingly so, and yet her eyes, wide with shock, were filled with something that cut deeper than words. Fear, guilt, and a hint of anger. "Mom," she whispered, as if saying my name might crack the delicate perfection of the day. The usher stepped aside instantly, sensing this was no longer his battle. Guests nearby quieted, turning their heads, watching the scene unfold with breathless interest. Even her father stopped talking mid-laugh, his face draining of color as he spotted me. My daughter swallowed hard. What are you doing here?" I held her gaze, steady and calm. "Attending my daughter's wedding. Where else should I be?" Her fingers tightened around the bouquet. I watched the petals tremble. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I told you, we agreed, it was better if you didn't come." "No," I said gently. "You told me. I never agreed." A soft murmur rippled through the guests, like wind moving through leaves. Her cheeks flushed a deep red, embarrassment splashed across her features. "Mom, please," she whispered urgently. "Not today, not here." Her desperation wasn't anger, it was fear of judgment, fear that her perfect image would crack, that people might see the messy truth beneath the polished surface. "You uninvited me without reason," I continued, keeping my voice even. "You replaced me with a man who disappeared from your life for years, and you never once stopped to think how that might feel." Her eyes flicked toward her father, then back to me. "It's not that simple." "It never is," I said quietly. "But I came here for you, not to fight, not to embarrass you, to watch you walk into your new life, to be your mother, even if you've forgotten what that means." She blinked rapidly, her mascara threatening to smudge. "They said it would be easier, that you'd argue, that you'd judge everything." I exhaled. So that was it. The groom's family, her fiancé, whispered poison, feeding her doubts like it was kindness. I stepped closer, voice softening. "Look at me. Do I look like I came here to ruin your day?" Her lip trembled. She shook her head, barely, but enough. Then her father approached, jaw tight. "You weren't invited. You shouldn't be here." My daughter flinched at his tone. I turned to him, calm as ever. "And you shouldn't pretend to be the parent who raised her." Gasps erupted. His face twisted with anger, but he said nothing. My daughter looked between us, between the mother who stood by her and the father who abandoned her. Something shifted behind her eyes, as if she was finally, painfully, seeing the truth. She took a shaky breath and whispered, "Mom, please come inside." And just like that, the moment I feared would never come, finally did. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more emotional story episodes. The shift in the air was instant. As soon as my daughter said, "Mom, please come inside," a stunned silence swept through the guests. Some stared with wide eyes, others exchanged curious glances, and a few offered small, quiet smiles. People who had watched this drama unfold from afar and secretly hoped the mother of the bride would win her place back. Her father's jaw clenched so tight a vein pulsed in his temple. He looked as if someone had slapped him. "Sweetheart," he said sharply, "we discussed this. She shouldn't be here. She'll make things complicated." My daughter flinched again. That flinch, that tiny involuntary movement, was all I needed. It told me everything about their relationship. He wasn't protecting her, he was controlling her. I stepped forward, but not toward him, toward her. And in the softest voice I had used since she was a little girl, I said, "You don't have to choose right now. Just breathe." Her eyes glistened. I don't want a scene." "Then let's not make one," I replied gently. "I'll sit quietly, no drama, no arguments. Just let me witness your happiness." Her gaze fell to the floor, her fingers twisting around the bouquet ribbon. The weight of her own choices seemed to crush her. Behind her, her fiancé appeared, hands in his pockets, expression stiff. He gave his mother a quick look. She narrowed her eyes, clearly displeased by my presence. Then he asked my daughter, his voice thinly disguised irritation, "What's going on? Why is she here?" Before my daughter could answer, I stepped in, not with hostility, but with clarity. "I'm here because I raised her, and because I won't let anyone rewrite my place in her life." Her mother scoffed loudly. "This is exactly why we wanted a small wedding. Drama." Drama. Funny how people who cause problems always accuse others of making scenes. My daughter's breathing grew uneven. Every pair of eyes seemed to hover over her fragile decision. I could tell she was breaking under the pressure, pulled between loyalty, guilt, and fear. So I did the one thing she didn't expect. I stepped back. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "if you want me to leave, I will. Not because they want it, because you want it. Say the word and I'll go." Her head snapped up, eyes wide. She wasn't expecting surrender. She was expecting war. "I'm not here to fight. I just want to know you're making choices for yourself, not because someone made you afraid to disappoint them." Her fiancé stiffened. Her mother's lips tightened. My words hit exactly where they were meant to. My daughter's face crumpled, not in anger, but in realization. "Mom, I didn't think. I let them talk for me. I thought keeping peace meant keeping you out." I felt the sting of her confession, but I also felt something else, hope. Without warning, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. It wasn't a graceful hug. It was trembling, tight, desperate. "I'm so sorry," she whispered into my shoulder. And just like that, the wound that had been gaping for days began to close. But the fight wasn't over, because someone else wasn't ready to let her choose me. My daughter was still holding me when her fiancé abruptly stepped forward, jaw tight, eyes blazing with a frustration he could no longer hide. "Enough," he snapped, his voice low, but sharp enough to cut through the murmuring guests. "This is our wedding day, and you're ruining it." My daughter pulled back from me, startled. "Ruining it? His mother swooped in beside him, clutching her clutch bag as if preparing for battle. "This is exactly why we didn't want her here," she hissed, glaring at me. "Look at what she's doing, starting drama right before the ceremony." I didn't react. I didn't need to. People who panic most loudly are usually the ones hiding the most. But my daughter looked wounded, confused. The joy that should have filled her wedding morning had been replaced with tension and fear. Yet none of it had come from me. Her fiancé turned to her, voice icy. "You need to decide right now. Either she leaves or I do." An ultimatum. On her wedding day. In front of guests. Over her own mother. Gasps filled the air. Even a few bridesmaids shifted uncomfortably, exchanging uneasy looks. My daughter froze, her fingers tightening around her bouquet until petals began to crush beneath her grip. "Are you serious?" she whispered. "Dead serious," he said. "I won't spend my life with someone who lets their mother interfere. If she stays, the wedding is off." His words were not just cruel, they were revealing. Love doesn't demand ultimatums. Control does. I stepped toward my daughter, slow and steady, giving her space, giving her strength. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "don't look at me. Look at him. Look at who he becomes when things aren't perfect." Her breath hitched. His mother barked, "You need to leave, now." But his son wasn't done. He grabbed my daughter's arm firmly enough that he realized it was too much when she winced. "This is our day, and you're ruining it by being weak." Weak. That was the moment my daughter's head snapped up. That was the moment fire lit behind her eyes. She pulled her arm free, taking a step back from him. "Don't talk to me like that." He blinked, taken aback. I didn't mean." "Yes," she said, voice trembling but strong. "Yes, you did. You meant every word." His mother stepped forward, frantic. "Honey, he's just stressed. Weddings bring out emotions." "No." My daughter cut her off. "This is who he is when he doesn't get his way." Silence swallowed the doorway. My daughter turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it." I touched her cheek gently. "You're seeing it now, and that's enough." Her fiancé sputtered, "You can't seriously," but she raised a hand. Not shaking, not unsure, certain. "I'm not marrying someone who gives me ultimatums, and I'm definitely not marrying someone who thinks my mother is the problem." A collective gasp rose behind us. The groom's face reddened. "You're calling off the wedding over this?" She took a deep breath. "No. I'm calling off the wedding because I finally understand who's been trying to control my life." And with that, she turned her back on him. On the aisle, on the ceremony, on everything she thought she wanted. But she didn't walk away alone. She reached for my hand. And together, we stepped forward. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful emotional stories. When my daughter intertwined her fingers with mine, the entire world seemed to pause, as if even time needed a moment to process what had just happened. The guests stood frozen, their whispers swallowed by the weight of her decision. The groom's family looked horrified, while the groom himself stood trembling with anger, disbelief, and humiliation. My daughter lifted her chin, tears glistening in her eyes, but her voice steady. "I won't marry someone who thinks love is control," she said. "And I won't build a life surrounded by people who treat my mother like a burden." Her former fiancé's face twisted. "You're making a mistake. A huge one." "Maybe. But it'll be my mistake, not one you force me into." He took a step forward, desperation seeping into his voice. "We've planned everything. You can't just walk away." She didn't falter. "Watch me." With that, she squeezed my hand once, firmly, and together we walked down the stone steps leading away from the chapel. Each step felt like a release, a shedding of all the fear she'd held inside. Guests parted like waves, some whispering, some staring with wide eyes, others nodding with quiet support. Behind us, the groom shouted after her, "You'll regret this." She stopped walking, turned halfway, and spoke with a calmness I had never heard from her before. "The only thing I regret is letting your family make me doubt the woman who raised me." The groom's mother gasped, pressing her hand dramatically to her chest. "Ungrateful girl!" But my daughter didn't even acknowledge her. We kept walking until we reached a quiet patch of grass beneath an old oak tree. The chapel bells chimed, mocking the ceremony that would never take place. My daughter finally let go of my hand and collapsed onto a bench, breathing hard as if she'd been holding her breath for months, not minutes. I sat beside her, resting a hand on her back. "Sweetheart," You were incredibly brave." She voice cracked. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. "That's what bravery is," I whispered. "Doing what's right, even when you're terrified." She leaned into me, letting her head fall onto my shoulder, the way she used to when she was little. She murmured, "I kept thinking about what you said, about choosing for myself, and when he gave me that ultimatum, everything became clear." I brushed a tear from her cheek. "Love shouldn't require obedience." She nodded softly. After a few moments of silence, she let out a shaky laugh. "Mom, I walked out of my own wedding." I smiled gently. "You walked out of a mistake." She exhaled, long and slow. Then her face grew serious. "Mom, I'm sorry. For everything. For pushing you away. For believing them over you. For hurting you." I cupped her cheek. "You came back. That's what matters." She closed her eyes, relief washing over her. "I don't know what happens next." I squeezed her hand. A new beginning. And she looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen in years, whispering the words that soothed every wound. "Will you stay with me today? I don't want to face anything alone." I smiled. I've never gone anywhere. The sun had shifted by the time we gathered ourselves enough to leave the quiet shade beneath the oak tree. The soft breeze rustled the leaves above us, carrying away the last echoes of the chaos we had walked out of. My daughter wiped her eyes carefully, smudging what remained of her makeup. But there was a new steadiness in her breath, like she had finally exhaled years of pressure. "Mom," she said softly, "what do we do now?" I slipped an arm around her shoulders. "We go home, we eat something comforting, we breathe, and then we figure life out one step at a time." She gave a small laugh, tired but real. "I thought my life was ending." I shook my head gently. "No, sweetheart. Sometimes life just clears out what wasn't meant for you, so something better can take its place." As we walked back toward the parking area, guests slowly trickled out of the chapel. Some avoided eye contact, embarrassed by the spectacle. Others came up with soft smiles, offering quiet words of support. One older woman approached us, her cane tapping rhythmically on the stones. "Good for you, dear," she said to my daughter. "Better to walk out now than spend years regretting staying." My daughter managed a grateful smile. "Thank you." Not everyone was supportive, of course. Her former fiancé's mother glared at us as if we had stolen something precious from her. Her husband stood stiffly beside her, whispering heatedly under his breath. But her son, he looked lost, confused, angry, but not at her, at losing control. He marched toward us. For a moment, I tensed, unsure what he would do or say, but my daughter stepped in front of me, her posture strong, almost regal. "Don't," she said quietly, holding up a hand. "There is nothing left to say." He swallowed hard. "You humiliated me." "No," she replied, voice calm. "You humiliated yourself when you tried to make me choose between you and my mother." "I was trying to protect us." "No," she repeated firmly. "You were trying to own me." His face flushed, but before he could respond, she turned away, taking my hand again. Conversation over. Chapter closed. When we reached my car, she let out a long breath. "Mom, can I stay with you for a while tonight? I don't want to be alone." My heart softened. "Sweetheart, stay as long as you want. Home is home." During the drive back, she rested her head on the window, watching the passing fields with a quiet expression, heavy but hopeful. Every now and then, she reached over and held my hand, as if grounding herself. When we reached the house, I made tea and warmed some food. She changed into comfortable clothes and curled up on the couch beside me like she used to as a child. "Mom, she whispered. Yes? Thank you for coming. Even when I told you not to, I didn't realize how much I needed you until the moment you showed up. I brushed a strand of hair from her face. Mothers show up, even when they're pushed away. She leaned into me, her voice soft and full of truth. I love you. I held her close. I love you too. And as the day faded into evening, I realized something profound. She didn't just walk away from the wrong wedding. She walked toward the right version of herself. And that, more than any ceremony, was worth celebrating. If you enjoyed this emotional story, don't forget, like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful emotional stories.